All right, everybody, good evening. This is the Carver Zoning Board of Appeals. We are in Carver Town Hall, Room 1. It is January 20th, and it looks like it's about 7:01 p.m. by the clock in here. It is, as I said, January 20th, 2023, our first meeting of the new year. What? 19th, excuse me, our first meeting of the new year. And we have an agenda that contains a number of items tonight. The first one that I will take is the one that we usually take, which is the approval of the meeting minutes that have yet to be approved. The only set that has yet to be approved is the August 23, 2022 meeting minutes, and those have already been distributed in advance to the members of this board, and I ask now for any comment that they might have with regard to changes, amendments, modifications, or suggestions. Has everybody had a chance to review those meeting minutes in advance of tonight?
Well said.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So those meeting minutes are approved and may now be made part of the official record.
Just a point, I abstained because I was not there.
Did you vote yes, Ms. Cohen? Okay. So let the record reflect that it is still a unanimous vote with Ms. Cullum, our alternate, elevated to a voting member in the absence of Ms. Clark, who is abstaining as she was not present on that date, August 23. She was indeed. Thank you. Now, we have some items for discussion tonight, and what I would like to do is go to these directly before we get into our public hearing for tonight. The first of these discussion items, as listed on our agenda, is a discussion concerning the scheduling of meetings going forward. And as all of you know, we have been sort of pulling out our respective schedules and calendars at the end of each meeting that we do have, and we kind of negotiate amongst ourselves as to when we will all be available for the next one. But it has been suggested that maybe we should pick a definitive date or day during the course of a week and try to stick to that going forward. My only concern with this is that there may be weeks when the date that we potentially choose to meet on a regular basis is a date that somebody might have scheduled for vacation, or there could be a family illness or some other issue that could come up that would prevent them from attending. The other issue for me with regard to this suggestion is that sometimes, as I think everybody here knows so far, except perhaps Ms. Cullum, we will have controversial issues with which we need to deal, and we get quite a public showing. So if a room is not big enough for us, either this room or room 4 downstairs, we might have to make arrangements to move outside of the town hall, as we have done in the past, and perhaps use the auditorium at the high school. And that auditorium might not be available on our regularly scheduled meeting date. So those were my two concerns about being wedded to a specific weekday. And I'm open now to discussion from any one of you as to what your thoughts are about this.
I'll start since I brought this up. The reason I brought it up is that for 25 odd years that I was on the zoning board, we always met on a specific date, third Thursday, second Tuesday of every month. And I didn't find the instances. Occasionally there were instances when people were sick, but they would be sick if we randomly picked a date. There's no way of saying, is everybody going to be healthy 5 weeks from now? There's no way to tell that. And also on vacations, you just do your vacation and we make do. But the reasoning behind that is a couple of things, is that for scheduling purposes for applicants, I think it's easier for them in the planning department to know that if you come in on the 2nd of the month and they can do the public hearing, get the public notices out, you will be heard on this day. Not you will be, that right now they have to email Stephen or Chairman Gray, and he has to email us, and we have to get back with some dates. And I think that's just onerous. A lot of us have busy lives. A lot of us serve on other committees. And for me, it would just be easier to have a set date that I knew was zoning. And then I plan around it. I can either plan a vacation before or after it. The other issue that Chairman Gray mentioned is that sometimes we get a crowd. And we may have that going forward soon. But sometimes we get a crowd. You can always change your spot that day. We move to, if we were in meeting room 4 and we decide to come up here and it's vacant, that's an easy answer. If we've moved it to the school on the fly, when we've had to, but within a day or so. So that's not anything that concerns me as an issue. My concern is that I would like to have, and I think I've talked to Jill, and they would like to have a set meeting date. And that's the reason I brought it forward for discussion. We've kind of bandied it about before, but we've never done it. I would propose at this point the third Thursdays. Thursdays are easy in this building. There's nobody up here, there's nobody downstairs, and that is my suggestion.
I don't think the third Thursday is going to work for me because I believe it's CPC.
Then I'm open to the second Thursday.
That would work.
Or the fourth, or the first. I just think Thursday's an easier day. I have all my meetings on Tuesdays. I have some meetings on Wednesdays. But Thursday, I'm usually wide open. So I don't know about the rest of the board, but that's how I feel. And that's why I brought it up as a discussion point. I think it's easier for the applicants, and it certainly might be easier for us.
May I hear from the other board members, please?
I was going to ask where this came from, and Sharon explained it. I understand your viewpoint, so I don't have anything else to ask or add at this particular point.
I'm kind of in agreement that it would be easier if we had a date set for people who need to be on the agenda and for us. I think the only problem or issue might be is we're all going to run into different, like when you said the third Thursday, I said, yes, I'm free on that. And then we went to the second Thursday, and I was like, I can't do
That
second
doesn't work.
Thursdays. If we could come up with an appropriate, day of the week, and have it in this room, which provides, maybe a little more space or at least more hallway space, I would be willing to go along with that.
I know first and third Wednesdays, the Concom is in here. I don't know if anyone's in here on the second Wednesday or fourth Wednesday. And in the event that we need a second meeting, we've done that before. If we have a meeting that needs to be continued and it doesn't require the public noticing, which is very specific in timeframes, then we've done that. We've gone, then we pull out our phones and we'll see if everyone's available like in 2 to 3 weeks, So we do have flexibility to add a meeting, but I am looking for guidance on setting a set date.
Okay.
Madam Vice Chair, do you have any comments?
It's just not the third Thursday.
Yeah. I do think for scheduling purposes, a regular meeting day makes sense. and then we can adjust depending on what comes up at the time. I would prefer, I mean, if Thursday doesn't work for you, one Thursday doesn't work for me, Tuesday doesn't work for you, I would ask, you know, how does Wednesdays look for everybody? Is Wednesday,
Generally free? Yep.
Yep.
I can make it work. It's just juggling.
Well, I'm not quite sure I hear consensus around this issue in terms of what day during the course of the week, which is why we've always sort of done an ad hoc approach to scheduling meetings where we kind of negotiate for a date that works for everybody. And I understand that, you know, we all live busy lives. Some of us are still working full-time. And others have other boards and committees on which they sit that require their attendance.
Some of us do both.
And some do both, right. So,
Jen, is Wednesday not a good, excuse me, Mr. Chair, can I say something?
always.
Thank you. Jen, is Wednesday not a good day? Do you
No,
have
it's
a?
fine. I just, it's juggling activities, kid, sports, driving, taxi stuff. But it's fine.
But would it be easier for you to work around a set day or trying to juggle depend on what,
A
where?
Sunday would probably be better.
A set day would be.
Okay, so
So I
Wednesday,
think we're all saying a set day.
Wednesday's good on my end.
Yeah,
It was suggested to me that if we wanted this room, and it doesn't make a difference to me, then Thursday would be the best day to schedule. If that makes a difference to anybody.
So would the fourth Thursday of the month do it?
The second and the third both seem to have problems, so that leaves us with either the fourth
Wait,
or
wait.
the first Thursday.
let me,
of the
let me
month.
double check my CPC. I can never remember if the CPC is the third or the fourth. Hold on,
That's good.
hold on.
I do the
It's the
RDA on the
fourth.
third Thursday. I mean,
Okay.
the third Tuesday.
I'm assuming the CPC is the fourth because we have it on the 26th of January.
All right, I have a suggestion then, just to bring us to a head and move it along. Let's table this discussion for tonight, make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row before we set a regular meeting date. Unless
Honest-
you can tell me now that you're sure, because I don't
I
want to
would
commit.
prefer to do a Wednesday, honestly,
Wednesday?
even if we don't get this wrong.
Oh, sure.
Doesn't matter. I'm in Wednesday or Thursday, just for me.
And Ms. Clark, is Wednesday during the course of the week good
Wednesday's
for you?
good for me.
I'm sorry?
Wednesday is good for me.
Okay. So then we do have consensus around Wednesday, and you're sure about your schedule,
Yes,
Madam?
for Wednesday,
Vice Chair.
absolutely. Yep.
Okay, then we won't.
Which Wednesday?
I'm open any Wednesday.
Ms. Clark?
Any Wednesday.
Any?
Well, so I guess my question would be is, we're gonna start with the next meeting that,
Yes.
all right, so where are we now? Let's see. So we're right in the middle of the month here. Well, and some of the things that go on, don't they need a certain amount of notice? Like for the
course.
next one, what is, I
We don't have a scheduled date yet for the next one because we have no business.
Well, right, but we're gonna make one now. So if somebody wanted to be on the agenda, don't they have to have paperwork in within a certain amount of days?
Yes, that's true. It would be incumbent upon me to let the nice ladies in the planning department know about our attempt to be on a regular schedule. And I will do so if that's something that everybody should agree to tonight. So, Mr. Poirier, Wednesday.
Second and fourth
For what?
for Concom,
So,
Concom's in here first and third.
first and third. I was just checking, she said Concom's in here first.
Well, they're
and-
in this room, but I don't think anyone's in the basement room.
Okay.
Mr. Poirier, Wednesday.
oh, yeah, but now we're just trying to figure out which Wednesday.
And I think we've heard from everybody but for you that any Wednesday of the month is okay. So I'm asking you.
Yes, any Wednesday.
Okay. So, Does someone want to make a motion that we move our hearings when necessary, meaning when we have business that require a public airing? Do I hear a motion that our regularly scheduled public appearances be on the Wednesday of the month?
So
Mr.
moved.
Chairman,
Yep.
Unless
Good.
you want to specify which Wednesday of the month.
I want to specify which Wednesday, and I want to take out the words "when necessary," because all meetings will be held on that date. It worked
Well, there are some
fine for
actions.
25 years.
There are some actions that require administrative, so that doesn't,
No.
administrative decisions, so we don't have to go into a public hearing on that. That's why I use the words "that's necessary."
But we establish our hearing dates on the specific Wednesday.
Which Wednesday would you like?
How about the second?
Second.
Second?
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 Do I
I can
hear
go
a-
third.
Do I hear a motion? Let's get this
I'll
done.
make a motion that we have our meetings going forward
Thank you.
on the second Wednesday of the month.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we've already established our next meeting date,
If necessary.
but we establish it anyway. As far as planning goes, the planning department, they know our next meeting date. If we have administrative things to take care of, we can take care of them then. If we have no hearings, then we
It's
come
not
in.
necessary to have that meeting.
Nope.
Okay? All right, let's move on to the next discussion item. And that is in case 1-20-0-R, the property location is 92B South Main Street. The petitioner, Rick Antoniotti, for clarification regarding whether the approved accessory dwelling unit, approved by us previously, may be constructed prior to the construction of the principal dwelling unit, and if the accessory dwelling unit may be permitted in view of design differences between the plans approved previously by the board versus the revised plans submitted to the building department. So we have a couple of issues here, and I observe that council is present to speak to this issue. You may approach and make yourself comfortable. For the record, I have received some emails prior to tonight about this, which I have shared with you all, and I have advised council, again for the record, that it's his decision and that of his client, the petitioner in this case, to either appear with counsel or without. I observe that counsel is here, the petitioner is not. That's okay. But let's talk about the first issue first, because there are two being raised here. And they're being raised, by the way, because Mr. Antoniotti has had issues with getting his plans approved and commencing construction, because our new building inspector has indicated that he needs some direction from this board about these two issues. So the first one is whether the approved accessory dwelling unit may be constructed prior to the construction of the principal dwelling unit. If you could identify yourself and then speak to that issue, please, briefly.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Attorney Gray. For the record, Rob D'Ambroso Law in Plymouth. I'm Mr. Antoniotti's attorney. He can't be here tonight because he is driving his 87-year-old parents down to Florida, who hope to live in this accessory unit someday, hopefully sooner rather than later. So relative to that first issue, the previous building inspector granted Mr. Antoniotti a foundation-only permit for the accessory unit. That inspector had no issue with the sequence of events in constructing the accessory, so-called accessory unit first. The only reason that Mr. Antoniotti didn't present the full set of plans is his architect's mother had health problems again. That's probably more than you need to know, but he wasn't able to get a full set of plans for construction of the full unit, so he only pulled a foundation permit thinking there would be no issue. By the time he came back, there was a new building inspector, Mr. Palmer, who's here on an interim basis. He was very nice to deal with. I spoke with him, and my impression was he didn't want to overstep his bounds as an interim person in particular, and would have felt more comfortable with this board's blessing. So, again, relative to the sequencing issue. So, the reason that Mr. Antoniadi is building the smaller portion of the permitted project first is purely financial. He owns a condominium unit in North Plymouth. He doesn't have the funds to build the full thing until he sells his condo unit, so his game plan really all along was to build the accessory unit. Well, I don't know if it was all, I think it was all along, to build the accessory unit, live there, move out of North Plymouth, sell North Plymouth, and then with the equity he pulled out of his current condo, he'd have the money to finish construction of what this board permitted last year. So that's the reason for the sequence. I guess and I'll wrap it up here. I think my only other remark would be that, I would hope this board wouldn't have an issue with it, because to the extent that there's a concern about footprint, density, impact, he's building the smaller of the two. So if he gets hit by a bus or for some reason isn't able to complete the project, you're left with less density. In fact, I would think we wouldn't have even needed the relief we came here for a year ago if he's only building a single dwelling unit on the property. So I hope there's not an issue, but I'm happy to field any questions relative to this.
Board members, any questions or comments that anybody would like to make?
Well, I have a question as to when we permitted this and we put the conditions in place, it was permitted and the conditions were per the plan submitted. And now the plan has changed significantly.
Right, respectfully, I think that's the second issue. But
Council is correct, and we'll get to that second issue in a minute.
Okay.
This one is about sequencing. What's going to come first? Is it the chicken or the egg or the chicken? Is it going to be the accessory or the principal or the accessory? They want to start with the accessory and be allowed to proceed with that. And they cannot until our interim building inspector gets some direction from us.
But in my head, the footprint should be whether, and I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but in my head, the footprint should be what the final footprint is going to be, even if that's just the foundation. Am I correct? I assume the foundation's been poured.
for the smaller unit, yes, for the accessory unit.
Well, it was all one building. What we permitted was all one building. So how could the accessory be smaller when the accessory was on the second floor? Am I correct?
No.
Both components have a foundation, so
Not the way we permitted it. Do we have the plans?
I do.
It's been a while.
Well, it has been a while, but
I had to think back myself.
yeah,
what
we were
talked about.
very
It's been almost 6
specific
months since
with
the last
this.
time we met to talk about this.
Yeah.
I can understand if we're having a little trouble sort of remembering everything that was discussed before.
So let's back here.
I remember this.
This is what was presented
Correct.
to you guys.
Yep.
And again, now, what happened was, Mr. Antoniadi, once he talked to his builder said, look, this is gonna be a challenging thing to make a single continuous roof line for both units. He said, you're better off, and it frankly, with more of a traditional look, to do what was submitted to the building department last month, which is this smaller elevation. This is only the portion of, this is only accessory unit portion. So again, that gives you an idea of the unit. The plans that were submitted to you guys initially, again,
Had the accessory on the second floor because they had to go downstairs to the second bath.
correct, there is no bathroom on the first floor. We haven't changed that
Yep.
in any respect. There's no bathroom or washer dryer. Those are concerns
Yep.
of this board.
That's the garage.
Yeah,
Yep.
the living space is on the second floor.
Yep.
So that hasn't changed. Really, the roof line has changed. And again, the sequence obviously is an issue.
And the foundation has changed.
Well, so we have a smaller overall footprint. We had proposed I think we're losing, hang on. The footprint that was permitted by this board was 60 square feet larger than what's being proposed now. So we've actually brought it in a little bit. So I would typically think that wouldn't be an issue because we're not expanding, we're actually getting smaller.
And you're not going to add another foundation later on.
Well, the main dwelling will have a foundation,
I
right?
don't
We
get
don't,
it.
we've only pulled a foundation
Yeah.
permit for the accessory portion. We'll have to go back to the building department and pull a permit for the primary dwelling space when he has the funds and ability to construct that unit.
So I'm trying to picture all this again myself, so bear with me here. The way it was originally designed, the two dwellings, the main part and the accessory dwelling unit,
Yeah.
were going to be one slab of concrete, right, for the foundation.
Correct.
So all you've done at this point is build a portion of that.
A piece.
So I guess my question is, because it seems like that, why didn't you just pour the whole foundation? Even though I know they weren't planning on building the rest of it until later.
Yep.
But when you hear that they're building they're pouring the foundation for the smaller unit, it makes you wonder whether you're changing things up. And I'm not saying you are, but
Right.
this is the question that it sounds like Fran's having, and I'm wondering a little bit about this.
I mean, it's just being staged, and again, this was, but yeah, I understand,
Yeah.
but, all I can tell you is we're not exceeding the dimension of the footprint of what was permitted, we're just doing it in 2 bites.
And I know there's a second issue here that we've got to talk about, so, but we keep lopping over in some ways to that issue because there seems to be a change and this is an issue that we talked about before where people have said they were going to have one set of plans and then when they go there, they've got something a little bit different. So I guess we've got to talk about that more detail.
Yeah, and we were very specific about the sidelines and the frontage and exactly where it was going to be sited on the property and had to give relief for that. And having, if the foundation, my thing is, if the foundation of what was originally permitted
Yes.
had been poured,
Yes.
and then there were issues with financing or whatever, okay, now I can't do 3,000 square feet. I've got to start at 1,500.
Right.
And then add a second floor later, I can picture it. I can't picture 3,000 square feet to 1,200 square feet, and we're going to do more later.
I mean, and look, I agree with what you're saying here. I mean, the language of your permit says the siting of the house will be at least a part within the footprint of the existing dwelling. The siting of the new house will follow the depiction on the site plan, and it does. I mean, we're not straying, we're not moving outside that permitted footprint. We're not, certainly not, we're just coming, again, the footprint is, is this, we're doing, this. I mean, it's a little bit small, but we're not moving outside the footprint.
But we don't know that because we don't have a site plan where the new foundation is versus what was permitted. Here's what was permitted.
Correct.
Here's where we've cited this. And because if we did, we could do the same thing that we did before and say, we're going to, allow this based upon the plans of record, not to exceed, blah, 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 but we don't have anything except a request.
Well, I guess my response to that would be that, you typically wouldn't have more than that. I mean, let's say that Mr. Antoniadi went to the building department and submitted plans to build a whole enchilada at once. No one would be coming back to this board and comparing, what he builds to what was permitted. That's the inspection, that's the zoning enforcement officer's job to make sure that what he's building is in accordance with the plans. And that's why he had the question, he said, look, you know, is it okay to change the sequence? I said, I would certainly hope so. He said, we'd like the ZBA to rule on it. He said, is it okay if the design changes? But he never questioned whether, I mean, in fact, we have a foundation permit for the first one, but he never questioned, we're not asking to shift location, and we can't. I mean, that's, again, the zoning enforcement officer will enforce your initial decision, which requires us to build, you know.
According to the plans of record.
Correct. Yeah, so again, what we're doing is shrinking it within the existing permitted footprint. We're not relocating outside of that footprint, we're not making it larger, we're not moving it, it's within what you're permitting.
Is the part that's being built closer to or further away from the water?
Actually further,
Okay.
yes.
It's the part with the garage, so that's right up front there.
Correct, yeah, that would be.
So as if he is able to progress
Yeah.
and put the rest of the building on, it's going to be attached to, just as the original plans were, or?
Yeah, no, he's building according to the original plan. Again, he's changing the roof line, you know, and made some design changes, but the structure is going to be, you know, the foundation and structure are going to be the same, except the foundation will be a little smaller.
I wonder what would happen if he never got around to building the principal dwelling.
I would think
And he
there
has a
won't be-
really small principal dwelling with a garage under it.
be a
And
tiny house.
would we like that?
Be a tiny
Would we
one.
want that?
I wouldn't have a problem. Well, how small is small?
The laundry's downstairs, that's all you need.
Is it 150 square feet?
Well, gosh, I think it's less than 300 by your bylaw. I can't remember the exact.
No, 800.
Or maybe, yeah, less, yeah.
800 by right. And I think he brought it in at 764, if I
I mean,
remember.
I would think and hope that anyone in town, whether this board, the building inspector, citizenry at large, butters would be delighted if you only built a tiny thing. You know, that's a heck of a lot less than was there previously. But again, that's just my.
Let's move to the second issue.
Can I just ask a question?
You may.
Thank you. The interim building commissioner didn't have any problem with the design or the placement of what he has submitted.
No.
He was only questioning the sequence.
Well, no, to be fair, he did. That's, I think, what we're getting to.
Oh, okay.
It's a good segue. You know, he's saying,
Oh, I like
he asked
that.
about the sequence, and then he said, look, these are my notes from my phone call with Mr. Palmer. He said, you know, look, you've got a smaller footprint and a different roof line and a different floor plan. You know, I would like the ZBA's blessing. So, again, you know, it doesn't show a bathroom on the first floor, which was one of your conditions. It doesn't show a washer and dryer on the first floor. I have the plans here. You know, so again, my view is that really the roof line is the change. It's gone from that kind of more contemporary
Yep.
look to what I would call a more traditional look. The height's no different. I think it's actually lower. Don't quote me on that. But, you know, again, it's not a continuous roof line. It's going to be two smaller roof lines. So it's different. I mean, I think it's frankly, you know, less visually intrusive, if that's the right turn of phrase, but it's just different, and he's, you know, said, look, I'd like to have the ZBA. Now, the prior building commissioner, for what it's worth, had said, look, the ZBA has jurisdiction over, you know, where you site it, you know, and they can insert conditions, but, you know, then it gets turned over to me. I don't care what you do, you know, put your bathrooms wherever you like, that's really not the ZBA's purview. Mr. Palmer's kind of taken a more conservative approach, saying, look, if the ZBA permitted this, I don't want you departing from anything that was submitted to them unless they say it's okay. So that's why.
Any further comments, questions, or suggestions?
Do we have a copy of the submitted plans? Did you make copies for everyone?
I asked Michelle and Jill, I can't remember which, if she needed copies, she said no. I emailed some to her, but I brought them. She said just bring them to the.
Can I, don't put them there. I can't see them.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
And is that the older plan?
Yes, this is the older
All
one.
right.
you can see there's a hole on this one because he doesn't have the floor plan for the, he's not submitting a floor plan for the primary unit.
I have to ask again, just so that is the foundation that is poured the only foundation that's going in?
No,
No,
you'll need
This
to,
is phase
This is
one.
the foundation that is poured.
that's correct,
Okay.
And this is phase two?
correct.
Okay. Got it.
You want to pass it down?
You can. I just want to see. Something over there that I don't understand.
Thank you.
You know, if I may, let me call my client just to confirm that I'm getting the correct information on which, whether it's partially, send me a picture, I assumed it was for the smaller unit of the foundation, but if I may, I'll just confirm.
So that would be the foundation for the garage.
Correct.
and then
Well,
he-
garage, and then, yeah, you
he's-
go up and build his dwelling space on the second level.
You had said something about the architect, it was,
The architect, I guess, wasn't able to get him plans in time for him to submit. The architect had given him plans for accessory dwelling units, said he'd get them for the primary unit, didn't get them done. Rick wanted to get going before the ground floor, so he just submitted plans for the accessory unit. Instead of submitting all of them, otherwise it wouldn't be here because the prior building inspector, I think, would have blessed everything. Foundation has been poured, that's just for the accessory portion, or is it for everything?
Then
Yeah, okay, all right, that's what I thought, thank you. Yeah, that's correct, they've only poured the accessory portion of the foundation.
can I see both?
Yep.
for me, I think what this comes down to is whether this is a substantial change in what this board approved initially. If it is believed by the members of this board that it is a substantial change, we have to do a new public hearing, where we go over this again and start from the beginning. So if we're hung up tonight and cannot reach a consensus on whether this can be done as sort of a minor modification, then we'll have to do a republication and a new hearing. That will set back the petitioner, obviously, in terms of time frame and his plans, but maybe in the meantime, he'll be able to sell his current principal dwelling, and then he'll be able to proceed with the entire plan as originally permitted or as originally decided by us here at the ZBA. Don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, my view would be the relief we were seeking initially was, you know, to reconstruct, you know, two non-conforming structures and to build an accessory dwelling unit, and that hasn't changed. You know, I understand that we've got a departure in terms of some design elements, but, you know, again,
Members of the board, please sit, and we can pass these around because there's important conversation going on right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
I mean, again, at the risk of trying to describe this board's purview, I would say, you know, it's not a design review board. And the relief that was granted was to reconstruct two non-conforming structures and an accessory dwelling, one of them being an accessory dwelling unit, and, you know, and bearing in mind setbacks. That was really the key element of the relief, and none of that has changed. So, you know, I'd like to contend that, you know, this isn't even a modification. This is really comfort to the building inspector. I wouldn't call it even a minor modification, you know. What was permitted, the relief hasn't changed.
And we don't have anything from the building commissioner, the interim building commissioner, to us, right? Specifically? Only
As far as I know.
only your version of the conversation that we have on email, or we don't have anything from?
I have
is it
nothing
Mr.
from
Palmer?
the interim, no.
Well, that would have been a good thing to have.
So what is the pleasure of the board tonight? When you were huddled, what council and I were talking about was whether this was a kind of minor modification, although he, as he's just indicated, he wouldn't necessarily characterize it that way. But if it's a substantial modification in the mind of any of you, then it would require a new public hearing. We would have to start over. In the past, I know that when plans change after we've approved them and issued a decision subject to, that we have taken a dim view of this. You know, we don't like to issue decisions and then have someone say, oh, well, wait a minute, forget about what I told you guys, I've come up with a different idea. Minor, major, however you want to characterize it. So I think each of you has to decide in your mind whether this is something that is substantial enough or major enough, whatever adjective you want to use, to require a rehearing, or whether we can get this through without another public hearing and notice, because the size and the location are consistent with the decision as made originally by this board. We did not speak in our decision about sequencing. That's a new one for me. I can't remember the last time we had that issue. But I did have someone try to change the plan that we had approved and the decision subject to that plan recently. And I told the then building commissioner that that was not appropriate. I'm not saying in this instance that it's not appropriate, because that other situation they were looking to make bigger than what we'd approved, not smaller. So that's just a little background from me. So what's the consensus of the board here? What do you folks feel comfortable doing tonight? Mr. Barrington.
I feel if it's the same footprint and it's just being done in 2 stages.
That's on the first question. Second
Okay.
question is,
Is this a major or minor?
well, they're changing the design and they're changing size. So the petitioner through council is asking us to address both of these issues so that when he goes back to the interim building commissioner, there won't be a problem. Yes?
That is correct, yeah, that's what Mr. Palmer asked us to do.
It's been a long day for you, council.
I didn't know it was directly toward me, but yes, that's correct.
What happened to your tie?
It's been that long. with that.
Yes. This is an informal Thursday night for you.
Yeah. And again, I mean, I would say that, you know, I agree with you. If we were expanding the footprint, if we were changing the setback, reducing the setback, I mean, those would all be at least a minor, if not a major modification. Again, the relief pertaining to the siting and the setback, really, when you boil it down to it, what you permitted. You know, the accessory dwelling unit determination, I remain of the opinion that that's within the building commissioner's discretion. You know, this board did take it up at the hearing, but again, that's really not an issue whether we're entitled to an ADU or not. That's been decided. So again, I think we're really talking about design elements, which I don't think have ever been something this board has really hung its hat on. I mean, you like to know what's being constructed, you have an interest in seeing elevations, you want to...
Well, I wouldn't be so glib about it because our written decision said subject to the plans as submitted, right?
Correct.
So you have to
And-
live with that
and-
whether you like it or not until you get direction from us tonight per the instruction of the interim building commissioner. So let's kind of
Here's the
decide how we want
question
to
that I
approach
have.
this.
is it an ADU if it's not secondary to another dwelling?
Well, I mean, I suppose if the primary dwelling is never constructed, I suppose it wouldn't be an ADU. It would just be a very small house, and then eventually our permit would lapse, and if, it was sold or someone else wanted to come back, they'd be at the mercy of this board to determine whether or not they could build something
But
accessory to that.
if you have a unit
Yeah.
and it's 800 square feet,
Mm-hmm.
and now you want to put a building with it that's 1,200 square feet, can you do that?
I would say if this permit lapsed, we'd probably be in really rough shape, or whoever's owning the property at that point, because they'd have to ask for an accessory unit to what's there, which they'd be stuck with two 800 square foot or less units, so I think.
And how long does the permit hold for?
You have to act on a permit within a year. Was this a variance or special permit? I think it was a special permit. You have to act on a variance within 1 year of its issuing or it lapses, and then you can get a 6-month extension.
This was a special permit.
Yeah.
So it's a year.
But you have to act on it. He's already acted on it. By putting in
Okay.
by putting in a foundation, you have now acted on it.
Okay,
You don't have to complete it.
okay, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
And it just occurs to me, I mean, even if they had put down the entire foundation, okay, and said, we're gonna start building and they only get that far, I mean, that's still a possibility too, so I guess there's no way, you obviously can't foresee whether this thing is not gonna be built or not, so. I guess I think of the several instances where people have made changes after we've approved something, and that's what I'm thinking about. I'm trying to think about whether this is a huge deal, but I'm not really sure. I'm still thinking about it, so. That's where I am.
I might throw in one thing is that we didn't have to permit the accessory dwelling unit. The accessory dwelling unit
That's true.
is as of right. I mean, or it could just be a 794 square foot house right now. We had it included. We've also done new builds that are brand new buildings that have included the accessory dwelling unit as part of it. We don't know which part they lived in before they finished the other one. The building commissioner didn't come and ask us if this was an issue. I do wish I had something in writing from Mr. Palmer explaining his conundrum, because if it's something as simple as, I'm ready to move on this, I just want you to sign off on it, that would be awesome.
Can we ask for that?
We can ask for it.
I respectfully submit in terms of process here, if this board were to issue a finding or a letter to Mr. Palmer saying, the board accepts the sequence and the plans as submitted, I think that would suffice. I know that would suffice for him, but again, I think.
What Ms. Clark is suggesting, though, is she would like to see that from him. Not that we disbelieve you.
Right.
Counsel, I certainly don't
Yeah.
disbelieve you, but, we have a record to keep here. And you're representing what you've heard from somebody else, which we know is hearsay, so
Well, I did speak to Mr. Palmer.
I believe you did. I do. And I believe your notes are concurrent, simultaneous, or as close as you could to make them that way. So do we move forward tonight one way or the other? And the one way would be to issue a letter along the lines of what counsel just suggested, or not to make that decision tonight and say this is something that, really is significant enough that it should be advertised for a new public hearing, or should we table and continue for the receipt of a letter from the interim? I think those are our options for this evening.
My feeling is that I personally have no issue with the sequence. If they want to build what will later become a conforming accessory unit. but live in it while they're building the main house, I really don't have any problem with that because our decision included it in the plan, but we didn't have to, it wasn't oversized, we didn't have to special permit the accessory dwelling unit, other than we knew it was going to be there, and we knew who was going to live in it. I have no problem with the sequencing. I think this is just another issue of a change in our professional staff here at town where citizens are being held somewhat hostage. And I think it's along those lines. I would, however, like to see a letter from the building commissioner directed to us. I don't believe it rises to a major modification. I'm not even sure it rises to a minor modification. If one building inspector or the building commissioner, if Mr. Boucher, looked at the plans and said, they're different from what the zoning board approved, and he didn't send them on, then this is, I think this is just another, Mr. Palmer's very new. He wants to make sure everything's crossed and dotted, and I think this would just be a matter of making sure that we're doing the right thing. And in my feeling, the right thing would be to go ahead and issue a letter that would be to satisfy the building commissioner, but having heard from him first.
Okay.
And
so
hopefully we're having another meeting in just a couple of weeks.
to crystallize this then, what we could do, I suppose, along the lines of what Ms. Clark only so far is suggesting, is that we could vote tonight to indicate that we have no issue with this, subject to the receipt of a letter from the building commissioner explaining what it is that he's looking for? Or is that putting the cart before the horse?
No, that sounds exactly what I'm looking for.
Well, it's very challenging, for a man to try to crystallize the thoughts of a woman, so I'm going to do this.
You made that statement to public television.
I did.
Wow.
I did.
I'll take care of it, ladies, don't worry about it.
I did.
I'm gonna move down here.
Well, I'm glad that I was able to sort of understand that position that
I may need to
she's
take a
taking,
minute.
and all of us are taking tonight. I think all of us. So, do we want to wrap this up and go to a motion on this?
Well, I don't know. Should I make one?
Your idea, Ms. Clark. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know if you can trust it.
Of course I can.
I move that the zoning board, what do we say, a letter of support? What did you call it?
Guidance?
Oh, guidance. Yeah, see, it just went right out of my silly little head. That the zoning board issue a letter, or ask for a letter of guidance from the interim building commissioner, Mr. Palmer, to indicate what exactly he's looking for. And I move that we vote to support what has been presented to us, pending the receipt of the letter.
Everybody
Now,
get
you
that?
want to fix it up for me?
No.
Okay.
I'll second.
Everybody understand what's being proposed? That we're going to indicate tonight that we are supportive of the sequencing and also supportive of the design change and sizing, which is changing, subject to the receipt of a letter from the interim building commissioner as to what it is that he actually needs guidance on. So that letter comes first, and then if it comes, we'll be able to say that, we're okay with this.
At our next meeting.
I beg your pardon?
At our next meeting.
At our next meeting, whatever
Right.
that might be. Is there
I know what it'll be.
a time frame issue for your client?
Yeah, I mean, there is, he's got the
Everyone here?
foundation board and would like to start
Where are we?
building this. I mean, he already kind of missed the market. He would have loved to, have been permitted
Yeah, you and me
a year
both.
ago, so he could have caught the hot market and sold his North Plymouth place, so it is time sensitive.
Okay.
So, I mean, if the board saw fit to issue a letter to the building commissioner, I won't.
February 8th, it's only 3 weeks.
Our next meeting is the 8th.
3 weeks.
Yeah. He's got to come back from Florida, right?
Well, yeah.
Okay. So,
Is there a second?
I did.
Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So, I think we can say generally tonight that this should be okay, subject to the receipt of a letter from the interim asking for guidance on these two issues. So we're looking for guidance from him, and then you've got sort of the guidance from us already. I'm going to ask the vice chair to draft a letter to the interim, asking him to give us guidance on what exactly it is that he's looking for here.
Okay.
If you could do that, and then you could send that to me, and I'll take a look, and assuming that everything is in accordance with the consensus of the board here tonight, I'll circulate it to everybody as well as to the interim.
Okay.
Is that okay? Sometime,
Tomorrow.
well, it doesn't have to be tomorrow, it could be in the next week.
Thank you.
Thank you. I guess that's it for tonight for you.
So I guess just to be clear, the building inspector's not gonna get, I guess, would he get direction before February 8th? I mean, if you're sending a letter to him saying, we're comfortable, subject to you telling us what you're sending us.
Yep.
There's a chance he'd be comfortable, I mean, again.
There's a chance you might not need to come before us on February 8th.
Right, and he might be comfortable enough, I guess that's up to him.
Yep.
My guess is that when Ms. Mello sends the letter and he receives it and he sends one back to us, on the 8th, we just formally acknowledge it, maybe re-vote it or something like that. But
Okay.
I don't, we're saying that we don't believe it rises to another public hearing, which was probably your worst nightmare. And so I think it'll all it'll all just transpire over email pretty quick.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you guys, yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you.
So stay tuned. We'll see what the building commissioner says to you folks, and let the nice ladies in the planning department know whether it will be necessary for us to have you come back on February 8th.
Yep.
It may not be necessary.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the building inspector's comfortable enough, because again, he was.
Yeah,
on the
he'll
fence.
issue his letter per the request of Ms. Mello, and then Ms. Mello will then issue a letter indicating that we've made this decision tonight, and that may obviate any need for you to come back on the 8th.
That would be great in terms of timing, expense, and I mean, this is our 7th ZBA hearing.
You've gotten to know us
Who's
very
counting?
well.
All right.
Thank you and good night.
Thank
Very
you.
much, guys.
Thank
Happy
you.
New Year to you. Okay, we are now going to the public hearing tonight, and you are Mr. Silva, are you? Thank you for being so patient. It's case number 40-15-0R. The petitioner is Michael Silva, requesting a special permit and variance in accordance with sections 2245, 2320, 5221, 5222, and 5300, and sections following of the Carver zoning bylaw for property located at 155 Center Street in Carver. That's Assessor's Map 40, Lot 15-0-R, so as to construct a 3-car metal garage, 31.5 square feet by 29.9 square feet, or 941.85 square feet in total. 700 square feet is allowed as of right, so that's a little too big, according to the bylaws. And a variance is being requested due to the need for side setback relief. So the subject property is located in a residential agricultural district. Again, Mr. Silva, why don't you come up and sit in that hot seat? And generally, we begin these public hearings by giving you the floor, the applicant the floor, and you tell us what you would like to do, and we'll see if we can do it.
Yeah, Michael Silva. I was just looking to put a garage setback free from my land. I mean, I don't really have much other use for the land, so my lot is narrow, but really long. So hearing this prior conversation about the ADU, it is something that I did think about as well, whole other conversation, maybe in the future, but got a lot of useful insight there on that.
No bigger than 800 square feet.
Yeah. But, you know, where when I put this garage is way back on my land.
Back from the street, you mean?
Back from the street, back from my house.
You have a long lot.
Yes, very, very
Long
long.
and skinny, huh?
and
Nice.
skinny. So obviously grandfathered in with frontage and all that. But,
Yeah.
so there isn't much I can do. I can't put an attached garage. So the only thing I really do is set it way back. Neighbor out back, it's all woods. Can't see his house, left and right. His house on my right is way up front. So he's all woods out back. So basically it's kind of like stuck. My land's cleared out pretty far. I'm putting at the back of my cleared out land. And again, left and right is all woods. So I know my,
So your neighbors would not be able to see this? Is that what you're suggesting?
no, no. So, you know, I know I need a variance for the setback, a side variance. Obviously, the frontage and the rear is fine because it's
Fine, yeah.
a lot so long. And, you know, there's no driveways, there's nothing there on my neighbor's left and right.
Just woods?
Just woods. I mean, I did, so the person that's, you know, getting the price to build this, I did ask them to reprice a two-car garage with, without having.
Conforming.
This conforming to, you know,
Size.
my setbacks. Square footage might be a little bit high, I think it was like 750 or 760. And I haven't got that back yet, so if this doesn't go well tonight, I guess I'll have to come back with some other drawings, but, again,
How much relief do you need on the sides?
3 feet on each side.
Can I just ask a question? This is an unattached garage?
Yeah,
Yes, detached.
yeah. It's quite a distance away from the
But
house.
isn't that only 10 feet?
Is there a restriction
Somebody
on?
pull out a book. It's so long since, I mean, a detached accessory building has to be 10 feet, an attached building has to be 30.
Where would that be, Sharon?
On the dimensional tables?
That's in the back, right?
No, that's definitions, dimensional tables are,
Here, I got it.
and I could just be misremembering, but. What? What am I looking at?
Is that it?
Frontage, minimum lot size. Well, that's minimum lot size. Frontage 150. This doesn't say anything about accessories. Front, back, setback, rear yard.
Requirement.
These are only for principal dwellings. And maximum building height, minimum width. Nope. Nope.
No.
This isn't it. Bear with me, Mr. Sullivan. Look under accessories.
In the variance criteria, it says the current zoning setback of 30 feet when applied to the existing lot will not provide adequate area for the garage. So that must be why it's,
But that's what I'm asking, is that, you know, he's here, and I'm not sure that that part needs to be, but I could be, it has something to do with the size.
What page are you looking at, just out of curiosity?
the variance criteria.
Oh.
No, we're looking for side setbacks.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep, side setbacks. I'm just surprised he didn't. I mean, if someone puts up a garage, it's,
I know
Well-
for a shed.
for a shed, it's 10.
It's 10
and,
feet.
But
I
it's
know.
detached.
Right.
This is a detached garage. You know what, let's just go ahead with it as he's proposed it.
Well, right, but then if it turns out that it's 10 feet, then all he really needs is,
He doesn't
Was
need
it
any.
on the
Doesn't need
size?
anything.
He doesn't need any.
right.
But I don't, I have to wonder why the building commissioner didn't pick that up, so maybe I'm just thinking about it wrong.
I think we stopped you in the middle of your fine presentation, sir. Go right ahead.
I'm pretty much all of what, I kind of was gonna say. I mean, again, hearing what you guys were talking about with him, meaning you guys approved something and then something changes, you kind of front up on that. My question would have been, for cost-wise, if this did get approved with this size, and then I get this quote on the one that wouldn't need any variance.
Then you can go forward with that.
That would be okay, like.
Yeah, because you don't
this
need
one's
any
30
relief
feet
from us.
wide. If I do a 25, I wouldn't need the 3 feet. I'm
Right.
within my setback of 30, would I need to come back? Would I just need to go over to the building inspector and say, hey, here's the new garage size, and submit that? I don't know what that process is. So again, I was hoping to get that, so if I needed to, I could present that tonight, but I didn't get that question. So.
Would you like to postpone and see
No,
if you
I don't think it
can?
needs to be that. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, again, so I might not even change it. I mean, obviously I want the 3-car, but, again, if this comes back, if I do a 2-car, it's basically a 2-car garage, and it would fit in that footprint of not needing the variance. If it's significantly less money, I may opt to go that way, especially with, the way the economy is and everything now. But again, I don't know if it's gonna change much. It might only change it a few
What do
$1,000.
you think?
I don't know
Yeah,
what that
sure.
price is, so if it was significant, then I would really need to think, well, hey, maybe I would just go a little smaller and deal with a little bit smaller, but ultimately I'd probably go.
What's the total square footage of the garage?
As proposed?
Yeah.
900?
941.85.
Yeah.
So he needs it.
942. Well, he needs it for that,
For
but what I'm
that.
asking is if
Correct.
he needs a variance.
And the vice chair,
No,
the
Former vice chair.
vice chair and former chair,
Somebody who's been on
is
way too long.
eagle-eyed, as usual, and has pointed out that bylaw 2245 subsection B says that a permitted one-story, and this is one-story, right, accessory structure, and this is accessory because it's detached, may be located within a required rear or side yard, providing that it is not located within 10 feet of any property line in front, property line, or in front of the front line of the principal building, which doesn't apply to you.
Yeah.
So, you may not need a variance for the 3 feet on either side. Say thank you to Ms. Clark.
Thank you.
You'd still have to be here for the oversized garage,
Yes.
but, thank you. Sometimes I like to get one right.
Oh, you get more right than I do. However, it is not necessary, it appears, that you're going to need a variance. And I had actually puzzled over this when it came time for the drafting of the public notice, whether this was just a special permit situation or also a variance. I think we've answered that question, but for purposes of publication, and based on what your expectation was as to what you would need by way of relief, I made sure that I put both in the public notice, so that if anybody ever got upset about this for some odd reason, we'd be able to say that, hey, this was properly advertised. There was an issue here that was a little squishy, so we advertised for it, but upon further reflection at the public hearing, we decided that relief was not necessary. Okay? So, now size. You're over by
241.85 square feet.
Yep. 242 square feet. And this is why Mr. Poirier's on the board. He has a mind, a mathematical mind like a steel trap.
Steel sieve, more like.
So that's the relief that he needs. 242 square feet. We have permitted, as we all know, garages much larger than that in the town of Carver. This seems to me to be nicely sited in that it was well off the street, in back of your house, and according to you, not visible to neighbors on either side. So that's all good. Is there going to be electricity in this garage?
Yes.
And is there going to be water? Is it going to be plumbed?
No.
Just one floor, right?
Yes.
So no attic.
No.
And where's the electricity going to be? Is it any of that going to be outside the building?
As far as I'm probably gonna have a trench underground. Is that what you mean?
No. When the lights go on, are they all interior lights, or are you going to have exterior lights
Oh,
as
we
well?
have some interior spotlights, so it's
Right.
back so we can at least look out to it and see
See where you're going.
where I'm going. So,
Any objection to perhaps a gooseneck light situation where the light is pointed down rather than out?
oh, yeah, the ground?
Yeah,
Yeah.
point it to the ground.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's not gonna be shining to bring down airplanes. I mean, I don't wanna have,
That's
I wanna
what-
have it.
Dangerous in my neighborhood.
Yeah, it's gonna be shining to the ground, so if we were walking out to it at night and, or, parking our motorcycles in it, we can see at night and get to it,
Motorcycles.
yeah.
So what are the toys you're putting in the garage?
The motorcycles, and a truck to restore, and,
Okay,
lawnmower,
yeah, yeah,
have a little shed that's falling apart, so,
okay.
we just take all that stuff and put it in there,
are you going to take that shed out of there?
yes.
How many sheds do you have back there?
And you're saying that you don't know price-wise whether it'll be smaller?
No, I asked, the people that gave me this price to price
Come up
out
with a,
the 25 by 30.
okay.
Which wouldn't need the side variance, just in case.
You don't need a side variance
Yeah,
anyway.
so, and I didn't hear back yet, so, but, again, that was, I don't know what that price would have been, but,
So if we chose to grant this and we permitted it not to exceed 900 and what was it,
42.
42
Yeah.
feet, that would be fine with you?
yes.
Not to exceed
Not to
it,
exceed
and what that would allow you is, in the event that it's a little over, what is it, 700, but not, we don't want you to have to come back.
Right, so I think, what I asked for a price for was 25 by 30, which then comes in at
Mr. Poirier, do the math?
750.
Okay, oh, okay. So that's still over,
That's still over the 700.
700.
but if we,
Yeah.
This
but
would
it-
take care of either of
this
those
would
dimensions.
take care of either or. Okay, that's fine.
So the variance criteria sheet that came to us as part of the application package, did you fill that out? Did you type that information in?
No, my, got into the plot plan. Because of the verbiage, or?
Yeah, the dimensions. I'm not questioning that you did anything wrong or he did anything wrong. I just want to make sure that they're accurate.
Yeah, that was the company that did, the site plot plan. I had him, the surveyor, I had him fill that out. He said, I have an engineer, I have people that have done this in the past.
Okay.
Those girls downstairs
That's
said, hey, do your best at that, but sometimes they can fill it out, they
Yeah.
do this, so I.
No,
had
it
him-
looks good.
It looks good.
Now, this is written like I would write it. So, a tip of the hat. And that's important because I end up writing all of these decisions. So, does anyone else have any other questions or comments?
We usually do a site walk, but I don't feel the need. I mean, it's cold and it's icy and it's a long way off the street. It's wet.
So your neighbors were notified and nobody,
Yeah, I mean, they said they were gonna notify everybody, and I don't see anybody else here.
Yeah.
okay.
Well, it's cold and it's wet.
I see
not
one
that big a
nice
deal.
lady back there. Who is she?
That's my wife, so.
Hello, Mrs. Silva.
And she wants him to store his motorcycle
And
somewhere.
hers.
And yours.
Ah,
God bless.
Is this taking the place of the existing shed?
This is the shed's in a different spot.
In a different, okay, just, okay.
So if we're ready to vote, we can vote on the proposal, and then we'll have some conditions, or at least I would suggest some conditions as well, so we can make all of this clear for our interim building inspector.
So I move we close the hearing.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So the hearing is closed. I have some findings that I would like to have the board consider. First being that we find that the benefits of the proposed use outweigh its detrimental impacts on the town and the neighborhood in view of the particular characteristics of the site and of the proposal in relation to that site. That's the language for special permits. Anybody have any questions or comments on that? If not,
No.
I'll hear a motion.
So
Moved.
moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So we have made that finding. And also, I would suggest the board consider this finding, that the proposed construction is not substantially more detrimental than any existing non-conforming structures to the neighborhood.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So those two findings are adoptive. They provide the support or the foundation for what comes next. This is what you need to hear. I ask for a motion that the relief that the petitioner is asking for, namely 242 square feet to build the garage as he's testified to and as proposed in his package, be approved.
So moved.
Second?
This is the vote on granting the special permit on size, 242 square feet, as proposed. We got a first and we got a second? All in favor?
Aye.
So that's done. Now we move on to conditions. As you've heard, the first condition, or almost always the first condition, is subject to the plans of record. Do we have a nice plan that has been filed in this case? So,
Can I ask a question?
of course.
Do we need to address the fact that we don't need to incite the bylaw about not needing a variance?
You'd like to,
A
we'd
dimensional-
like that as a finding?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you want to propose a finding?
Where did I find that? 22?
It's 2245B.
2245, I believe.
B.
Yep.
B.
The finding would be, according to 2245, the board finds that a variance is not required, as this is a detached, single-story building.
Just say under the circumstances. Under the circumstances as
Okay.
proposed. Okay. That's Ms. Clark's motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we have three findings, and now we go to the grant of the special permit as proposed that will require relief of 242 square feet. Do I hear a motion to grant the special permit?
Can I ask something? Should we say not to exceed 242 square feet?
Not to exceed 242 feet.
So that way, if it does come in
If it
on
comes
the
in- if he
smaller
decides to
one,
make a
we
little
don't have to
smaller.
deal with it again.
Can't make it bigger, but you can't make it smaller.
Okay. With that change to the motion to
I'll make
grant,
that motion.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
So not to exceed, special permit to build the proposed three-car garage not to exceed a total of 942 square feet.
Do you want to list that as three-car garage?
We'll-
Because the three-car was kind of the,
We'll add that to the
Master.
motion.
and then shrink it. We're okaying him to shrink it down. Well, he can shrink it down.
You know, I'm going to put that in. I don't think it's necessary, though.
Okay.
I don't think any of this
Okay.
is necessary. If he's not going to need relief with whatever he intends to build, we don't have to be
Okay.
guiding him.
That
But
particular, okay.
I'll put it in.
But if he goes to 750 and we permitted 742, I mean 942, and it's 750, We don't know what building commissioner might be sitting in the seat the day he brings in his plans.
And you
so-
just heard somebody who wanted to shrink,
Yeah,
and he put the stop on that, at least for
Yeah.
now.
so,
For me, you know, if you're making something smaller and you require less relief, that's a good thing,
yeah.
not a bad thing. And I don't think people should be impeded from changing their plans as originally presented to us if it's going to be a lesser plan.
Correct.
Just me. Okay, so, conditions. Subject to the plans of record, right? And no plumbing. I would add that as a condition. Exterior lighting shall be gooseneck, right? Because it's going to point to the ground. Removal of the dilapidated shed in your yard, which I'm sure you would like to see gone.
There you go, have it forever.
How many mouses do you think are back there?
I don't go in there.
We don't go there, right? So yeah, those are the ones, subject to plans of record, the no plumbing, gooseneck lighting, exterior, removal of the shed. Are we going to remove the shed before construction begins?
Probably not, because I can store stuff in it now, so.
Okay.
I need to-
Sheds to be taken out upon completion of the project. Does anyone else have any other conditions that they'd like to attach?
I'd give him 6 months for the shed, after completion, yeah.
In other words, you have to remove it within 6
months.
months of the date of completion or substantial completion of the
Yeah,
of the garage. Is that okay? I don't think you're going to need it for another 6 months because that's why you're building the garage.
It might not last another 6 months out of this winter, but.
one good snowfall, and that'll be it.
Yeah.
Does everybody agree to the additional 6 months? Mr. Silver, do you want it or not?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else? Do I hear a motion to accept these conditions?
So
Motion
moved.
to accept.
And I don't know who was first, but
That's
I'll
okay.
second it, I'll let, who was it, Jim?
Thank
I'll
you.
let Jim be first, I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
So it passes. Congratulations. You get your garage. You get rid of the shed eventually.
Let me just jump in and let you know what happens from here. The chairman will write up the decision in the next week or so. He'll file it with the town clerk. When it's filed with the town clerk, that starts a 20-day appeal period. So everybody that was on your abutters list that you sent the notices to will get a copy, but not a certified letter. They'll get a copy of it. If they want to appeal it to Superior Court, they can. They have 20 days to do that. At the end of the 20 days, you should hear from the town clerk, but I would go ahead. We're getting into her busy season, so I would call. So in about a month's time, call. And when you get your original decision, along with a piece, attachment to it that says it's certified by the town clerk, you're going to take it to the Registry of Deeds down on Overy Street, and you will record it. Bring a copy with you. They'll stamp the copy. They'll mail you the original back. And you take that copy to the building commissioner when you're ready to draw a building permit. But you need to have that on record in order to get your building permit. Okay? You have any questions about that?
No.
Okay. So you'll hear from, we'll submit it, you'll hear from the town clerk, or if you don't hear from the town clerk, you call her in about a month.
No, that's Mrs. Martin's.
Yes.
That's,
Oh, Ms. Martin, from the planning department.
yeah,
The
but
clerk's office.
it goes
is,
to the town clerk's office.
Yes,
Yeah,
Ms.
so-
Dayhill.
Dayhill. But if you haven't heard from her, because we're going into like the really busy season now for town clerks, so just call her in about a month.
Okay.
Put it in your phone, little tickler.
And Mr. Silver, for what it's worth, I am typically very fast on writing these decisions.
Okay.
It may even be done as early as tomorrow, which then triggers a a passing of that written decision amongst the board members so that they can see what I've written and decide whether it's appropriate or whether they want to add or subtract anything. So this process, now that we've gone through the public hearing stage, this writing the decision and review of the decision before it goes for filing to the clerk's office is fast.
Thank you.
So it will not hold you up.
Sounds good.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And Happy
Thank
New Year to
you.
you both.
Thank you, happy New Year.
Good for you, get the toys out of the way. It's always the men who come in for these big garages. I'm sorry, was that condescending or patronizing?
You're allowed.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Drive safe.
Good night.
We now come to the point of the meeting where I ask if anyone has anything further they'd like to discuss.
No.
We all good? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And
Sec-
we adjourn until our next meeting, currently scheduled for February 8th.
Yes.
May or may not be necessary, but we'll see.
Well, I think we'll have something to do with
The first case.
Antoniadi.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unless something else comes up in the meantime that
They don't have
requires
Time
direction
to-
from us
Yeah.
in some form or capacity.
But we can also notify Jill as to when our meeting will be after that, and that may be when you're away in March.
No, actually, because it's the first week,
Oh,
I will be here.
how about that? I
So,
second the motion to adjourn.
all in favor?
Aye.
So we stand adjourned. Good night, Carver.